I'm a consultant. I'm a leadership coach. I have a friend here, a brother also, who is also a consultant. When companies call us to train their people, it's in one of these two dimensions. It's either to improve their current effectiveness in whatever area, whether it's in sales, presentation skills, emotional intelligence, or perhaps they want to promote them to new leadership positions. And as a result of that, they want to prepare them. So any knowledge that you are acquiring that doesn't do one of these two things means that it is not what? Relevant. So how do I improve my current effectiveness on the job? You understand? And secondly, how do I prepare for my future responsibilities? Some of us, God is bringing us to doors, new, greater opportunities, but you need to prepare yourself for those opportunities, because if you are not prepared, when the opportunities come, you will not maximize them. So there's a process of preparation for future responsibilities. Now, if you put those two together, I define a school as a place where you prepare people to meet the demands of life or the challenges of life. That's what I do. I define a school as a place where you prepare people to meet life's demand. That demand can be immediate or future. The challenge can be immediate or future. So that's the place where you prepare people to meet life demand. Life would always make a demand on you, whether you know it or not. You understand? Life will make a demand on you. The question is that when life makes a demand on you, are you ready for the demand? We know that the child is small right now, yes, but life will make a demand. At a certain age, that child is supposed to go to university. At a certain age, that child is supposed to start taking responsibility for himself or herself. And if that child is not ready, that child is what you call a failure. Every time somebody fails, it's simply because the person wasn't ready for the demands or the challenges that life made on him or her. Even the scripture says that if you fail in the day of adversity, your strength is small. So the problem is not adversity. The problem is that you did not acquire the strength relevant to deal with adversity. Adversity would come, but are you ready? So to prepare people to meet the demands of life, or the challenges of life. And in order to do this, I said there are three things every school educational system training program must do. Number one here is that it must understand the challenges that people would face or the demands that they have to meet. Number two here, it must examine the gap, identify the gaps. You understand? And number three here, it was design solutions. Those are the three things. Understand the challenges that the students are going to face. So what would the students need? So when a HR person says, I want to train my people, it's in like, what do I want to train my people for? Based on the challenges they're going to face, the responsibilities they're going to take, and what are the gaps? So this is need analysis. And the third thing here is designing the solution that would address the gap. So that solution must be practical and it must be relevant to the people at that particular time. So let's take challenges and talk about challenges. So since the starting point of a school is preparing people to meet the demands of life or the challenges of life, now let's understand what is a challenge. For me, the simple definition of a challenge is are situations or events that require either strength and or skill to solve. So situation or events that require either strength and or skill to solve. What do I mean? Somebody is going to work and his car or her car breaks down on the road, and he beckons onto other drivers or people on the road to help him push the car, that strength, to a particular place. So it requires strength, but in order to fix the mechanical problem of the car, it requires a measure of what? Skill. So what does this tell you is that strength is always better than what? Than skill. Now, if you use strength, it's temporary, you understand? And sometimes if you use this, we are in a discussion, I use the forcefulness of my strength to make you submit. That solution is usually what? Temporary, because I might force you to accept my opinion. Doesn't mean that you have truly what? Accepted my opinion. But if I'm able to persuade you, convince you, influence you, and you see reason, then it's a bit more permanent. That's skill. So every time you face a challenge will call one or two things. It will call either your what? Strength, or it will call what? For skill. Do you have the skill? Now, that's the definition of a challenge. Any situation or event that either requires strength or skill to solve. Now, there are two sides or two mindsets when you talk about challenges. So if you look at this, look at the car. Let's take the car example. Somebody is driving to work and the car breaks down. To you, it's a problem. To you, it's annoying. To you, it's a disappointment. To you, I don't know if it's frustrating. But to the mechanic, what is that? It's an opportunity. In fact, the mechanic is praying for such situation. You want to say something, sir? Yes. Can I take it at the end of the class? Okay, but what's the question, so I know? What is the role of the intellect? Okay, intellect will deal with skill. When you say intellect, what do you mean intellect? Mm-hmm. That's a measure of skill. That's a measure of skill. The ability to think and come up with a solution deals with skill. And when you think, let's take the car example, you touch this, you think the problem is this, you touch this, and it's not working. What do? You call somebody else that has what? A better knowledge that can think through the problem. And when we follow this, we'll talk about the 3 levels of intelligence. You understand? But so the intellect deals with skill. Now, so you see that there are 2 sides to every problem. There's to every challenge. There's the part that is problem. There's this part that is frustrating. In that part, you are complaining because you see it as a problem. To the mechanic is what? Is excited, is happy, is praying. So the mindset you bring to a challenge will determine success or failure to a large extent. Because you are rewarded based on the problems you solve. So if the mechanic solves that problem, what do? You pay the mechanic. His reward in life is a function of the problems that he solved. And think about it. Every man you call successful, every man you call an entrepreneur is simply, what is entrepreneurship? Entrepreneurship is simply solving problems. So I see problems as entrepreneurial opportunities crying for expression. Every time you see a problem, whether people are not well dressed, it's a problem. The fashion industry, whether people are sick, it's a problem. The medical industry, whether people need knowledge, that's the reason why school is. Now, so it tells us that our mindset to problems will determine whether we'll succeed or not. Because if you see it as a problem, as frustrating, as annoying and the rest, and don't see it as an opportunity, you will not approach it the way you should approach it in life. Now, based on this, there are 3 types of challenges you face, and we can define them or classify them based on their complexity. Based on their complexity, they are either simple or complex. A simple problem is, you know what a simple problem is, and a complex problem is quite complex. You understand? Based on complexity, it's either simple or what? Or complex. Based on the nature, you can define challenges as technical or social. A technical problem has an answer. You might need, like he asked a question, an expert. But there's an answer to a technical problem. And usually the answer is just one. 2s equals to 4. What is s? S is 2, and S will always be 2 based on the laws of what? Algebra, mathematics, and the rest. So there are certain laws in technical problem. 2x equals to 4. These are, you understand, technical problem has a fixed answer. And in that part, you have expert. So people go to school, become engineers, become doctors. They are experts. You understand? They solve technical problems. But you know, in life goes beyond technical problems. There are social problems. So take the doctor, for example. The doctor can diagnose the problem of the patient's sickness, but he cannot guarantee that the patient will follow through with the prescriptions that he has recommended. True or false? That following through is a social problem. When somebody is not motivated at work, there are so many causes of a lack of motivation. So social problems do not have a fixed answer. There are different ways to skin a cat, like they say. There are different approaches to social problems. Guess what? You know what our school teaches us? Most schools teaches us what? Technical. I don't know if you get what I'm trying to say. So they teach you to become a doctor, but they don't teach you how to manage a hospital. They teach you to become a lawyer, but they don't teach you how to manage your chambers. They teach you to become an engineer, but they don't teach you about those principles that deals with growing your business. The social issues, they don't. Then the third part is that, okay, are they predictable or unpredictable? What is a predictable problem? It's a problem you know that will always be there. It's predictable. An unpredictable problem is a crisis, it's an emergency, something you did not plan for. Can I ask you here, the most successful people, which classification or domain in terms of challenges do they solve? The most successful people. Simple or complex? Eh? Most successful people, which kind of problems do they solve? Simple or complex? Complex problems. They don't solve simple problems. They're complex problems. Technical or social? I think a combination of both. They solve technical, but they also need to manage people in order to succeed. And predictable versus unpredictable. They solve predictable, but they also solve what? Unpredictable problems. Now, a lot of school programs will simply stay at simple, at maybe technical, and a bit predictable. So what is the School of Leadership designed to do? Is to take you, we won't teach you technical stuff here, because that's what your engineering school and your normal school will do it. We'll teach you things that has to do with social and a bit of unpredictable issues. Just like this morning, we were prepared, the technical issues, unpredictable, and the rest. That ability to solve unpredictable problems is what distinguishes the successful from the unsuccessful. Now, if you look at the World Economic Forum, you know what the World Economic Forum did? The World Economic Forum looked at the skills that you need to succeed going into 2025. And these skills cut across globes, in continents. So in Africa, in Asia, in North America, in Europe, in South America, in Oceania. What are the skills that you need? It cuts across industry sectors. So are you in aeronautical engineering? Are you in IT? Are you in banking? Are you in oil and gas? Are you in the pharmaceutical, medical? You understand? Are you in the transport industry? Well, irrespective of your industry and your location, there are certain skills that you need to succeed going into the future of 2025. And if you check 1 to 6, 1 to 5 deals with problems. You understand? 1 to 5 in whatever form. So you talked about intelligence, analytical thinking and innovation. He also deals with problem. Innovation is coming up with solutions, you understand, to existing problems or new problems. That's analytical thinking, that ability to analyze. If you go active learning, you need to learn the information that is relevant. Number 3, it talks about complex problem solving, critical thinking and analysis, creativity, originality, and initiative. Notice the first 5 skills that you need to succeed in life has to do with skills that are relevant to problem solving. And number 6 deals with what? With leadership. So this is what the school is all about, to train you in the areas of life that you need to be relevant, irrespective of the role or the challenges that you face. There's some common denominations, you understand, commonalities in solving problems, and we'll take it as we move on in this program. So as I bring this first part of introduction to a close, I want to talk about speed versus progress. In a school, which one is more important, speed or progress? Progress. Speed is how fast you're traveling. Progress is traveling in the right direction. But progress also has to happen at the right time. So if your child is supposed to be at age 5, know A, B, C, D, E. At age 5, the child needs to know it. I saw somebody who says, yes, time is important, but what is more important is progress. So if I need to accomplish this vision in one year, let me accomplish it in 1 year. If I need to accomplish it in 10 years, let me accomplish it in 10 years. If I accomplish a 10-year vision in 20 years, then something is wrong. So we need to balance speed and progress. But more important is what? Is progress. So a child learns the basic of A, B, C, D, E, 1, 2, 3, 4. And sometimes as parents, we want to expedite their learning, but you need to take some things gradually so that you can bring everybody up to speed at the same time. So our focus here is not speed. I have a lot to cover. I have a lot to say. Our focus is progress. And in progress, we'll take it one step at a time. So I want to say here that a good school is a bridge between your present and the future, between where you are and where you need to be. And so I hope that the School of Leadership will become that bridge for somebody here, for that individual, to help the person become all that God has in store for you. Having explained the vision of the school, to raise leaders, to help you solve complex problems, social problems, and unpredictable problems. Now, the first model for this school today is the 4 phases of leadership. That's the first model, the 4 phases of leadership. So we want to understand what leadership is, because it's the school of what? Leadership. And now I have explained what a school is. You understand that it's a formal and structured place of learning. What the purpose of learning is, which is to help people improve their current effectiveness and to prepare them for their future. What a great school will do, help you understand the challenges, design and identify the gaps, and design the solution. We've talked about what challenges are, events or situations that call for either strength or skill. And there are two sides to a challenge, the problem side and the opportunity side. And there are 3 types of problems you will meet in life. Simple versus complex, technical and social, predictable and what? Unpredictable. So now I want to switch to the leadership side. And this morning, in the remaining minutes that I have, I want to address a fundamental principle. What is leadership? But in order to address leadership that way, I want to talk about the 4 phases of leadership. Are you with me? The 4 what? Phases. It's a phase. Phases. Phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and phase 4. The 4 phases of leadership. So what's phase 1? What's the starting point? The phase 1 of leadership is personal. The first phase of leadership is personal. This is you. This is Maxwell Ubah. You understand? You have nobody. If they put you in the desert all by yourself, you are in phase 1. So if you take Adam in the garden alone, it's in phase 1. Personal. Personal is just you as an individual. He has no relationship with anybody. That's phase 1. And there are certain attributes of personal leadership that we'll cover as we move on. But you know that you're not the only person in the world. So there was a time in Adam's life that Eve came into his life, and that became what? A one-on-one. So that's phase 2. Phase 2 is that you've gone to work. Yes, you have your own job description, but you understand that you can't accomplish your job alone. You need to interact. You need to go to your boss. You need to interact with your colleagues. You need to interact with your supervisor. You need to interact with people. That's phase 2. When you enter the road, I know you are driving your car, but you interact with other drivers. You horn, you trafficate for them to allow you understand, to enter. If you enter the bus, you interact with people. Madam, can you shift for me to? That's phase 2. Every time you enter an interactive moment, you are in which phase? In phase 2. My daughter comes up to me and said, Daddy, can I tell you something? Which phase is that? Which phase is phase 2? Once you are in interaction, you are in phase 2. And a critical component of phase 2 is the component of influence. Because you need to influence people into your point of view, your understanding, your views of life. You need a day off. You need permission. That's phase 2. A critical part of phase 2 is influence. Then we go to phase 3. Phase 3 now is when you are responsible for the performance of a group of people. That is what you call team. So when you are responsible for the performance of a group of people, you are in phase 3. So that's a team. So a football coach is in phase 3 leadership. He's responsible for the performance. When your results are seen through the collective effort of a group of people, you are in phase 3. So if you are a team lead, if you are a group head, if you are a divisional head, you are in phase 3. But there are certain people who are responsible for the whole. You understand? Once you are responsible for the whole, so the CEO of an organization is responsible for the whole. The owner of the club, the coach might be responsible for performance, but the owner of the club is responsible for what happens in the club. That is phase 4. It's organizational or national. Are you here? Are you here this morning? So there are how many phases? 4 phases. Personal, one-on-one, team, and what? Organizational or national. Now, having said that, the question I want to ask here, so is leadership for everyone? Huh? Is leadership for everyone? Huh? Is leadership for everyone? Yes or no? Yes. Why is that so? At every level? Family life at every level. Okay, so there are 4, because I said there are 4 phases. There are 4 principles I would like to leave with you this morning as a foundational principle of leadership. Now, principle number 1 is that leadership is for everyone. That's principle number 1. You know why? Because you see, we all exist in personal space and one-on-one. You understand? True of us? We all exist. You need to speak to your husband. You need to speak to your child. You need to speak to your colleague. We all exist in that personal or one-on-one stage. So I said here that leadership is for everyone. We are all leaders, but not everyone would occupy what? A formal leadership position. Not everyone would occupy what is called a formal leadership position. But everyone is what? A leader. And so I want to show you two quotes from two different authors. You understand? And just to collaborate, confirm this particular thought. That we all exist in, you understand? We all occupy, they're not the word occupy. We are all leaders, but not everybody will have a leadership. Not everybody will be the president of the nation, two of us. But can everybody add value to improving the nation? Yes, you understand? That's what I mean. Not everybody will be the CEO or the DG of his parastatal. Some of us definitely will get to the top. That's God's plan and purpose for our lives. The thing is, we need to prepare ourselves because we don't know what that plan and purpose is. We need to prepare ourselves, but not everybody will get to that particular top throne, whatever you want to call it. So two books, two authors. The first is The Leader Who Had No Title. And he says there's only one way a business will win in the new world we are in, is growing and developing the leadership talent of how many person? Of everyone single. Growing and developing the leadership talent of every single. So that organization has to become an organization that breeds leaders. A church has to become a church that breeds leaders and not members. An organization has to breed leaders. So it's supposed to be a breeding place where everyone throughout the organization, from the front line to the C-suite, everyone has that mindset that I am a leader. The second quote is from the Leadership Engine. Noah Churchill writes that winning companies win because they have good leaders who nurture the development of what? Other leaders at how many levels? All levels of the organization. So we see that one attribute of winning companies, winning teams, is developing leaders at how many levels? Every level. Not every man will have a formal title, but every man is supposed to understand the concept of leadership. So if leadership is for everyone, it takes me to pointer number 2. And pointer number 2 says that leadership is not positional. It's just a natural extension. If we are all leaders, but not everyone will occupy a formal leadership position, it simply means that leadership is not what? It's not positional. You see, one of the greatest hindrances to leadership growth and development is that mindset that believes leadership is equal to position. That's the mindset. So if leadership is positional, it means if I don't have a title, I'm not what? I'm not a leader. If leadership is positional, it means that I need to do everything to get to position. So the do or die politics that we see in Africa is simply people who think that leadership is what? It's positional. So they get to position, they don't want to leave the position. You know what they do? They begin to change the constitution so that at the end of the day, they become life president. Because in their mindset, leadership has to do with what? With position and with titles. Leadership is not positional. The fact that the man has a title doesn't mean that the man is a leader. And I'll prove it to you here. So in my book, The Alphabet of Leadership, on page 6, I wrote that leadership is adding value and making a difference. That if your life makes a portion of your world a bit better, then you are a leader, irrespective of your current position and what? Titles. So it means that, by extension, if your life doesn't make your world a bit better, you are not what? A leader, irrespective of the title that you have. So if you understand this concept, when God brought Eve to, the purpose of creating Eve was to add value to Adam. God said it's not good for a man to be alone. I will make what? A helper. A helper is somebody that adds what? Value to you. A helper is somebody that pushes your life forward. A helper is somebody that makes a difference to you. That is a helper. Now, that is a helper. And once so, you can see from the original context of relationship is adding value to people. Leadership is the same way. We add value to people. So let's take a typical example. Let me put this here. Joseph, for example, shared his dreams with his brothers, and his brothers said, let's see what will become of your dream. And they sold him to slavery. And somebody introduced him to Pharaoh, the chief butler. Now, who added value to him? It's the person that introduced him. No wonder that when Joseph's brothers came, before Joseph introduced himself, you read the scriptures, the Bible says that Joseph wept. Because he remembered the pain. His first son was called Manasseh. He said, God has made me forget all my toil and my father's house. Now, if you are not adding value to people, it doesn't matter whether you're their brothers, their sisters, their pastors, their governors, their CEOs, their whatever you call it, the title. If you're not adding value, if you're not making a difference in the lives of people, you're not leading. It doesn't matter the title and how long you've been in that office. So I show you another a confirmation. Many years ago, when the Israelites wanted to appoint a king, they went to David and said something to David. This is my favorite. You understand? When it comes to understanding that leadership is not positional, this is for me. And if you've had me teach this in different places, I would have made reference to this one way or the other. They came to David and said to David that you are our bone and our flesh. Well, look at verse 2. Also in time past, when Saul was king over us, you were the one who led Israel out and brought them in. Did you get that? Did you get the revelation there? When Saul was what? King over us. Who led them? But who was their king? Saul was king. And that kingship can be president. That kingship can be the governor of a state. That kingship can be the CEO of an organization, the pastor of a church, whatever you want to call it. Saul was king. Saul. But who led them? It was David. David was their leader. But did David have a title? You were the one who led us. The people know who their leader is. A leader is not who the person says he is. I'm sure that Saul will be saying, I'm the king over Israel. But to the people, who was their leader? It was David. The people know who their leader is. They can do rankadede to you, for example. They can, but in their heart, I don't know if you get what I'm trying to say. They know, they will say, foolish man, idiot. But they will say it just because of some. The people know. Saul was king. But David, you were the one. So I said here that Saul had a title, but David had what? Influence. David had influence. David was the one that would strategize and say, this is how we approach the battle. And the people would listen. You led us out, you brought us in. And so I said that leadership is not about power over people, but it's about power with people. And they're two different things. Power over people deals with positional authority. Power with people deals with influence. When you speak, your word carries weight. Not because of the position you occupy, but because of who you are as a person. So see what happens with power over people, that the day you leave that position, what happens to the power? What happens to the power over the people? It dies a natural death. But when you have power with people, you don't need position. Nelson Mandela became president of South Africa. And if you read his story, he said the reason why he became president was that he just came out from apartheid, and this was the first election they were doing. He felt that the democracy was it was a thorny issue between the whites and black. And he felt that as Nelson Mandela, he's one man that could galvanize the nation together. He said that was the reason why he came out as president. It was the reason why after his first time, what did he do? He resigned. Because for him, he doesn't need power over people when he had what? Power with. People who do not have power with people, they struggle for what? Power over people. Their relevance is not in their person. Their relevance is in their title or position. So So I say here just another way to define leadership, that leadership is not positional, it is behavioral. It is influencing a group of people to accomplish a mission or a goal. That's what leadership is. It's behavioral. It's influencing a group of people to accomplish a mission or a goal. It's almost time for me to round up, but because we started a bit late, so let me just take another 5 minutes and just summarize the next 2 lessons quickly. Lesson number 3 now says, effectiveness at the later phases of leadership is dependent on or contingent on effectiveness at the earlier phases. What do I mean? You cannot be effective at level number 4 if you are not effective at level number 1. And I'll just show you what I mean. So effectiveness here this is about predicting who will be a good leader or not. Yes, there are certain things we don't know. Sometimes people change. Yes, I agree. But when a man is a failure all his life and you want to give him greater responsibility, what have you guaranteed? You've guaranteed that the person will fail. You know what we do in Africa? We vote people into office and we now start praying for a miracle for things to happen. But sometimes, just look at the person's antecedents, because people will be true to their history except 2 things. Except they have a major disaster or they have a supernatural encounter. People will be true to their history. So if you check a man's history, you can predict what the man will do. Because except the man has what? A major disaster, a turnaround point in his life, or he has a supernatural encounter. People will be true to their histories. So I say, let's take a typical example. You have somebody who at level number 4 is failing. The president of a nation, the governor of a state, the CEO of an organization, whatever you want to call it, at level number 4. You can trace back. The reason why he's failing is look at the people in his team. You understand? Look at the people in his team. Does he have the right people in his team? Does he know how to build effective teams in order to deliver the result? Look at his ability to influence people. Is he the kind of person that when he speaks, people listen? Does he have power with people or power over people? So there's a problem with influence. Then go back. Look at his person, his character, his credibility. So you can trace back the reason for failure. You understand? You can trace back. It's a problem of the team. It's a problem of influence. It's a problem of character. Am I communicating? Hello, guys. Am I communicating? You can trace back. You can trace back. So this was the reason why Paul warned that if a man cannot take care of his own house, if a man cannot manage his own affairs, don't entrust him with greater responsibility. Don't entrust him with greater responsibilities. In fact, when he was telling Timothy, he said, before you entrust people with greater responsibilities, you should first test them. Test them. That if they prove themselves, then you entrust them. But in Africa, Nigeria, we don't look at what have they done? What have they achieved? We entrust people with greater responsibilities who are not capable. And so one principle of leadership here is never promote somebody beyond his or her level of competence or capacity. Never. You see, the greatest prayer you pray is that God should prepare me for the opportunities that my future hold. Because if you are not ready for that future, you might get to the future, but you will make a major disaster of it. And do we have presidents, governors in Nigeria, across Africa, who are disasters? Yes. Who have destroyed their nations, their states, their organizations from an organizational perspective? Yes. Yes. They got to the top, but they were not ready for that position. Effectiveness at the later stages is contingent, dependent on effectiveness at the earlier stages. Lesson number 4, and I bring this to a close. So what's lesson number 1 again? Lesson number 1 says what? Leadership is for everyone. You understand? That's lesson number 1. We are all leaders, but not every one of us would occupy a leadership position. Lesson number 2 says what? Leadership is not positional. Having a title doesn't make you a leader. So you can have 3 relationships. The man who does not have a title and is leading. The man who has a title and is not leading. And the man who has a title and is leading. You understand? So that 3. So that's lesson number 2. Lesson number 3 says what? Effectiveness at the later phases of leadership is contingent, dependent on effectiveness at the earlier. Final thing says here is that the starting point of leadership is what? The starting point of leadership is what? Is personal. That's the starting point. Every leadership journey begins with an individual. I'll be done in 5 minutes. The starting point of leadership is personal. So I wrote here that to become a great leader, you need to invest in yourself by becoming a great person. You lead from the essence of who you are. I said people will be true to their histories. So if there's something wrong in the person's history, the person cannot become great. That means you need to become the kind of person that others will willingly follow. So that investment in personal development, in personal growth, because lesson number 1 is personal. I see a lot of people struggling to influence people, but they have issues in that personal domain. Let's take, for example, you want to influence somebody, but you are not somebody that is trustworthy. An untrustworthy person cannot influence people because people cannot take his word for anything. And so the reason why you're struggling with influence is because you are not trustworthy. Lesson number 4 says that leadership is personal. Look at the Hawk. The man who founded Visa, the Visa card that you have today, Visa, MasterCard, that Visa card. He said the beginning, and paramount, the most important. So the beginning and the most important responsibility of anyone who purports to manage is to manage what? Oneself. To manage yourself. That's the beginning and the most important. You see, your own integrity, your character, your ethics, your knowledge. It is the management of the self that should occupy how many percent? 50% of our time. And what? And the best of our ability. 50% of your time should be focused on managing yourself. The best of your ability should be focused on managing yourself. So you are here. 2022 is just starting. You are here. You understand? 2022, you are here. This is you. You have dreams. You have goals. I'll teach some things about setting goals, accomplishing goals as we move on. And this is success for you. You have what you have defined as success, whatever that is. But there is a stumbling block. You understand that you need to. It's the reason for a lot of people, the year will come and the year would end. The things that they said they did not accomplish. You know why? The biggest challenge, the biggest stumbling block to personal growth, to success is personal. It is not environmental. It is not the nation. Are there challenges in the nation? Yes. Are there difficulties? Of course, I recognize that. But let's even take this nation with all the challenges and the difficulties. Are some people succeeding? Hello, are some people succeeding? Elon Musk last year added over $100 billion, if not close to $200 billion to his personal wealth last year alone. Elon Musk, the founder, CEO of Tesla, and the rest, last year alone in America. Are there Americans that are struggling to feed and eat? Talk back to me now. Are there Americans that are struggling to feed and eat? America is the land of the free, land of opportunity. Yes, I know. But there are some people, even in America, that are still what? Struggling. Because the biggest stumbling block between you and success is personal. So next Sunday, God helping us as we continue this series. Have you learned something today? Just as an introduction. Have you learned something? So next Sunday, we'll be starting a series on creating the conditions for personal success. The condition. There are certain conditions for personal success. How do you create that condition? So the focus of maybe the first month, first 2 months, first 3 months, as God will help us, is in the personal space. To become, how do you create the conditions? How do you become the kind of person in the workplace? What kind of person do I need to become in order for me to be successful? Father, we thank you for grace. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.